This is an analysis of a dissertation by yours truly, Reginald Matthews. Today we're going to talk about, can the internet and technology lead to human growth in a remote location? This particular dissertation that I read and wrote about earlier in the year was about a researcher, Thapa, trying to incorporate internet and technology into a mountainous region in the Magandi district in Nepal. Now that district is typically very poor, a lot of poverty, a lot of lack of education, and really the only industry up there is farming. They have little access to electricity and a lot of other resources. The method and design that was used was to create a wireless infrastructure, which they did, and then incorporate a few computers, some desktops, and some laptops, Wi-Fi access points across the area, and electricity. Now, the electricity was the most costly component because it wasn't really prevalent in that area, and being that it's a mountainous region, it's very hard to get to and to reach. Now, community and industry leaders were also selected to bridge the gap between the two. In the past, a study like this was also done in other areas in Central America and South America, and it has proven to be effective. The hardest thing with this one would be the mountainous area, will be transporting the materials to create the infrastructure to all those locations. Now, over the course of a year, the community leaders, researchers, and citizens met on 3 different occasions to share their thoughts and gather data. At these meetings, they would discuss how effective things were being and if they need to change anything, or go over any troubleshooting issues they may have had with implementing the Wi-Fi and the computers. The participants for this study were community leaders, teachers, farmers, construction workers, and non-working citizens. The community leaders obviously would head off the project and try to communicate to everyone in their particular area. So you would have the mayor and other members of his staff that would kind of lead the front for the more urban areas in the city. And you would have the village leaders in the mountain area that would lead the front for the people in the Magandi district. Farmers were located in both locations, and we had more teachers, of course, in the urban area than we did in the mountain area. Construction workers were strictly from the urban area, but would have to really discuss logistics as far as moving things and getting to the mountains and clearing area to make way for the infrastructure in the mountainous region. They would have to discuss that with the village leaders. And there were also non-working citizens as well. They were used as a variable to kind of see, how would a typically non-educated person fare with getting internet and technology for the first time? How would they improve, as opposed to someone that would has some educational background, such as a teacher? Validity issues. The biggest thing that I noticed from going through this dissertation that could cause some problems with gathering data would be the training. You have a group of people that lives in the Magandi district that have no education, no access to many resources that everyone else has below them in the valley. They don't know anything about technology or computers, so you have to spend a lot of time and money to try to train them, to get them to a degree or a certain level to be able to use the laptops effectively. Another issue that popped up was what I call the superiority complex. You had many people that lived in the urban areas that tend to look down on the poor people that lived in the mountain areas. That caused issues because they really didn't want to interact with the people that they felt that were less than them or beneath them. I also didn't think they used enough community leaders, where you had this better laid out scenario in the urban area where you had several people from the staff of the city that could represent them. You only had one or two village leaders in the mountains to represent them. I think it should have been a more evenly balanced scenario on that front. And the final thing for me that could cause issues on gathering data would be cost efficiency. This was a very expensive project of having to feed the workers, all the construction workers that were creating everything, and it took a while to get those materials up into the mountains each day, create the Wi-Fi infrastructure, and even once that was done, you have to deal with paying for the training, which was very costly and time consuming. Conclusions. Over the months that they've met and with the gathering of the data, the people in the Magani district showed an increase in social status. Over time, they were more accepted by the people, more wealthier people that live below them in the valley, due to them being able to use the technology and being more educated. It also increased the pride and morale. Now that they were more brought up to the times, they tend to seem happier, worked harder, and look for other ways to grow. And finally, it was an increase in economic growth with the inclusion of the internet and more technology aspects in that area. They were able to build more schools and more homes and even incorporate more businesses, and that also allowed them to transport goods a little quicker back and forth between the mountain area and the valley area.